entirety of any traditional martial art could be represented by a single deck of cards, then you've only been given half the deck. The missing half remains outside of your awareness. And for most of Western martial culture, it doesn't even exist. Let me begin to unravel this mystery through the art of Kiko. In this video, I'm going to retool the opening movements of the Wansu Kata as seen through the Kiko, or internal lens. Performing this way will add extraordinary strength to your technique. I will present both the bunkai and detailed explanations for why this set is being demonstrated in this particular manner. Every martial art in the world is built upon two central platforms: the biomechanical and something you're not going to be as familiar with, the bioenergetic, or what is commonly referred to as the internal schools and the external schools. Western culture has really only adopted the biomechanical platform. There are very few martial artists in the external schools who have any substantial awareness of how the internal energies are moved as a result of the kata sequences themselves. So in this video, I'm going to dive into some of the internal mechanics of the opening move of the Wansu. In setting up for the bow, the feet should be on a 90-degree angle, knees bent directly over the toes. If you want to have an energetic bow, a bow that's actually going to enhance the movements that precede the bow, then what you want to do is you want to take your middle finger, place it on the center of the outside thigh, right where the seam of a pant might be. Lift your arms up where you're about pocket height and relax your shoulders. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. Mine flop forward, yours might flop forward. This is not a military posture. We're not throwing our chest outwards. In fact, we're relaxing the chest and we're expanding the belly. When you hear that term, expanding the belly, yes, the belly wall relaxes, but the idea is if you relax this part of your body, you actually draw a charge into it, just like a battery draws a charge. And this can be used in the preceding movement. So in other words, the purpose of the bow is to build a charge up in the body, to start making certain circuit connections. The proper way to bow here energetically is to lower your head to the height of this dantian area. The Chinese call this portion of the body the lower dantian. Now, when you lower your head, you do not look straight ahead, because this head up here causes tension in the neck, and the energy which is rising up the back gets caught in the neck. So what you do is you bend the neck, and then you come back up. You're taking a charge over the top of your body. All right, you're running a circuit. And so we're going to run that circuit on an exhale. Now, the isshinryu Wansu Kata is unique in that it starts in this position. It doesn't have a move like this. It's not a quick bow and going out. The correct way to do this movement is to draw your hands towards you on an inhalation. And that's going to happen while you're stepping into the horse stance. So you've got several actions going on. You're dropping into a horse, you're drawing your hands forward on an in-breath, on half an in-breath, followed by another in-breath, followed by what looks like a cross body punch. Okinawan Kata has a mixture of ballistic and grappling techniques. It's not all block strike. There are many, many interesting locks that are being placed on an opponent, either after softening him up with a strike or striking after you've got him in position. So, when the hands come in, a relaxed left hand, when you see an open hand, oftentimes it means that hand needs to be relaxed. This is sometimes referred to as a soft hand. If I do the same action, I tense my fingers up, I don't get the same strength outcome. So you're inhaling. Now the other thing is, my arms are rotating. I'm rotating them inwards like this. I'm not pressing hard. This is a light touch right here. I'm not putting pressure in here. So, soft left hand, inhale, draw, slide out. Next move is to come down with what we call a hammer fist, because you're coming down with the outside hammering portion of the arm, not a back fist, hammer fist. And we have a relationship of palm up in the chamber and palm down. Shimabuka was not teaching just this chamber in his katas. Shimabuka was teaching different chambers for different reasons. And then this move comes across the body. I see a lot of people wanting to strike way out. Certainly you could strike way out. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but energetically, unless you change your foot position, your hip position, it's not necessary. That's not what the move is showing. You see, you have to understand, why is this kata going like this? If someone's over here and I need to block them, why don't I just block them and punch them? Why do I need to do this? Well, why don't I just bring my hands right here up into a cover position? This is mostly overlooked by isshinryu teachers. The hands draw as you drop. 1, 2, and the movement doesn't end until you get here. Somebody's grappling with me, grabbing me, choking me. We're in a clinch. I take them to the outside. I move their head around, and then I get to their right side. I go to the left to their right side. I break that arm free, and I lock them up in shoulder lock. You don't need 50 different ways to do an opening movement. You need one clear, effective, potent maneuver. Drop your opponent down, move his neck, punch his head or go over the top of his head, get over to his right side, lift his arm, grab it. His punch, is this a punch? This is a grab. Move his arm, pull it into the lock. You see the chamber right here? It's not getting ready for another punch. It's locking somebody's shoulder. Now, the correct breathing sequence for the whole thing would be this. Exhale. Inhale, inhale, exhale. Exhale with a rising low. Exhale. Exhale. Inhale half your air, inhale the other half. Exhale. Crescent step, rising low block. Exhale, exhale. You'll sometimes see a little pop at the end of a punch. You'll see a block and a pop like this. We're taking someone's wrist and we're locking them up. Your opponent's like this. It's getting his wrist lifted up. You can't see the internal. That's the whole point of it. It's invisible, but it's misleading. It's not just inside the body. You've got a field outside. This field has got currents, and these currents can be manipulated two ways. They can be manipulated by the physical posture itself. You don't need to know anything about chi or ki. You just need to know the correct posture. Or it can be manipulated by the mind. And that's when you're able to actually feel the currents, and then you can direct these currents mentally. That's a whole nother level of skill. A senior karateka with 40 years experience does a base test of my ability to resist his push. The next time he steps out into a horse stance on an in-breath to test again. Notice his extraordinary increase in strength. When he tries the push again, stepping out to the left on an in-breath, notice he gains just a little bit of strength. This is just one example of why you cannot do the same move on the opposite side and expect the same results. Don't be fooled that it's easy to push someone out of their stance. You have to experience Kiko firsthand to get the full sense of power in correct form. Why wouldn't you want this added strength if all it took was a few minor adjustments in the way you're performing the movement? Here's a test of the opening of Wansu doing a basic low block punch. Look what happens when the last low block is a rising low. The strength increase is dramatic. This strength increase is not coincidental. It is the essence of the Isshinryu Kata. Strikes, locks, parries, all manner of technique becomes supercharged when Kiko is applied. Every move in the Wansu Kata has been crafted to give you an increased physical charge. Flexing the left palm upward in the opening move will add impressive body power. Relaxing the left hand decreases the charge, and folding your hand reduces it that much more. Attempting a strength test with fist facing will sap the body strength. Simple kata movements are often overlooked for the potency hidden within the actions. Just returning your passive arm into a proper chamber can add significant resistance strength. Breathing also plays a critical role. If I breathe in, my arm becomes immovable. If I do the same technique and breathe out, you can see I can't hold the posture. After a base strength test, you can see that even a correct bow has added to the strength of overcoming that wrist. My breakthrough in kata started 30 years ago when I began to ask the question, why are the katas of Isshinryu sequenced the way they are? I don't mean the individual katas, I mean the individual moves in a kata. Why does, for example, Wansu start with hands like this? Why is a block done with an open hand versus a closed hand? And even though it took me a long time to crack that nut, when I did, the information was extraordinary. And everything that I'm telling you has been well tested. We've done thousands of tests with all manner and level of students to come up with what we believe is the optimal way to perform these katas. Now, there are many, many good kata performers out there. I'm not suggesting that what they're doing is incorrect. I am suggesting, however, that you may not be aware of hidden levels of performance in your form that can be drawn out by looking more carefully and more critically at why you're doing movements the way you're doing them. So if someone says to do an open knife hand block, the question becomes, what is it about an open hand that may or may not be different from a closed hand? And also, when you're doing parries, parries can be done lots of different ways. There's closed hand, say the vertical fist in Isshinryu, or the bent wrist, or the hand turned down, or the fingers could be straight and tight, or the fingers could be soft and relaxed. There's a lot of ways to look at these techniques. And that's what we've done. I need to put out a general challenge here to all of you that study traditional kata-based arts. And this challenge is coming out of my own personal experiences. In the late 1960s, when I got involved, I thought the katas were incredible. What did I know? I was a 17-year-old teenager. I was told that movements were to be done a particular way and to do them as quickly as I could. And I got very adept at doing that. Looking back again now, over 50 years at those early performances, I made incredible amounts of mistakes. So did everybody else. Nobody knew that they were making any mistakes. Where are the mistakes coming from when we look at the difference between external and internal? They're coming from the nuance in the performance. I would tell you this. If your teachers aren't discussing with you the proper breathing for each and every movement that you're doing, you're not likely doing internal, or you're not likely activating internal energies. If you are, you're doing it purely by intuition, not by instruction. When you are taught that a certain kata has stances unfolding in a particular sequence, you must understand the nature of those stances. Stances themselves cause energy to move in a particular way. So if a movement calls for a horse stance and you do a very narrow posture, you're not activating the energies properly. Well, you probably won't get the power that you could extract from the form if you were doing the stance correctly. So you must understand the correct breathing pattern. You must have a very good and clear definition for why one stance is chosen over another. For example, of the three primary foot positions that can make up numerous stances, you have feet straight, you have feet turned in, and you have feet turned out. Those are three energetically different postures. So if your posture calls for feet turned in and you happen to have them turned out, you're definitely canceling out the energy that you could get. So consider, a lot of nuance was lost, probably when it came over with the first generation of teachers. Not every school, but the majority of schools. I would say over 95% of them. Even though there's good intention in trying to pass the form along the way it was taught to them. And don't even get me started on kata drift. You can't have 10 instructors in the isshinryu system that perform the kata identically. There's always bias in the forms. Some of that bias is actually appropriate. It's accommodating for the unique way in which your energy moves, but the majority of those differences are just off. They're egocentric biased. They're selected because you just feel like it's a better move, and it's probably not a better move. Western culture has done a great job activating the biomechanical. We have some very, very good science now supporting how to maximize different martial actions, looking at the way weight is stacked in the body. In one of my videos, I think I talk about the difference between speed and power, which people can have some confusion over. If you have some speed, you have some power. But speed alone does not indicate that you're maximizing your physical power. And the reason for that is you might be moving a limb very quickly, but improperly stacking your body weight behind that limb. So stacking means that you're adding weight to a limb strike. You're adding weight to it. All right, so your arm has a particular weight to it. The average arm is between 10 and 15 pounds. But if you move the chest with the limb, you're adding some of that weight of the chest into the strike. So I can throw just a limb strike, or I can torque my torso into it. And then the stance, the way your legs are configured, is adding as a grounding force to be able to project the weight of your limb forward. So if you're standing on your tiptoes and you throw your best straight punch at someone's chest, yeah, it's going to hurt them, but it won't feel the same if you're in a proper grounded stance and you strike them in the chest. You might knock them right off their feet. And so you can see that just a limb alone is not enough to convey maximum force. And so we use the term stacking. You're stacking up the body weight behind the strike. That's correct biomechanics. correct bioenergetics is stacking the internal energies. Imagine that you have an electromagnetic field. Think of it like a live wire that you could touch to your deltoid, the primary muscle in punching. Imagine you could touch it just at the release of your punch. You probably would get an extraordinary hit out of that. And that's the kind of thing that we're talking about when it comes to activating internal principles. You're electrifying your body. You're bringing more juice into the musculature. There's that distinction again between internal and external. External, you're bringing some juice, maybe enough to get the job done. Internal, you're bringing inordinate amounts of juice into the musculature or to the muscles in general that you are utilizing during the technique. Okay, we're looking for a weaving of internal and external. We want to maximize our technique. Everybody wants to be stronger. On my karate gi, I have a patch with the Japanese calligraphy for the word power. Chikara, strength, force, power. We all want it. I'd like to see you maximize it. And I'd like to see you doing that by opening up a new frontier of investigation, the internal nature of your art. Well, good luck, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions that would help get you going on this incredible adventure. In the next video, we're going to take a look at this particular 3-move sequence, and I'm going to explain the why and how the hands should move, and why the hands are open in the first 2 movements.